Someone You Should Know, a program about people you know and even more that you don't. Hosted by Stuart Sax, veteran, husband, father, and grandfather. Now, here's your host, Stuart Sax.
Well, welcome to everyone for another episode of Someone You Should Know. And I am very, very over the top proud to say that this show is my 520th show. This show, when it launches, is 10 years of doing Someone You Should Know. That means 520 guests, 520 interviews, 520 times I've made friends with all of you and welcomed you and introduced you to people from around the world that have interesting stories to share. So I thank you for those of you that have been with me all of these years, and we're not going to wrap up. We're going to keep forging forward, and I thank you very, very much. And we are brought to you by our dear, dear friend, Christine Dean, who is the networking diva. She has been the sponsor of this show. She has been the producer of this show. She has been the force behind this show for most of those 10 years. And I absolutely would not be here without her. And what she has done for this show, she can do for you, for your business, for your marketing plans, for your website, for your podcast. And I'll reach out to Christine Dean, thenetworkingdiva.com. That's all you need. Reach out, send a contact link with her, and you'll have a little conversation with her and see if she can help you with all your marketing plans. Well, for this anniversary show and all, I've gone international because I have found a very, very bright, vibrant young lady who is up in Saskatchewan, Canada, to join us today to tell us a little bit about her careers and what she's doing now, which I think is going to not only surprise you, I think it's going to entertain you, but I think it's going to open your eyes to a few things too. So Debbie McCulloch, thank you very, very much for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that awesome introduction. It's been a very long time since I've been called a young lady, so I'll take that.
Yeah, I kind of take a George Burns approach because I can say that to most of my guests because I'm probably older than most of my guests. So everybody is young to me. But I think you will agree with me as we get into our conversation. You are as young as you feel and as young as you allow yourself to be. Am I correct?
Oh, I agree with you 100%. You know, so often we can still feel in our minds anyway that we're still in our 20s, or we still like to do the same things. We're still that same person, even if it doesn't show on the outside. But yeah, age is just a number, and it's how we feel and what we do.
Right. And you said we get out there and we just go out and we feel like we're 20 years old again until you do something stupid and pull something or sprain something. And then you realize how old you really are.
Exactly.
Now, I mentioned at the onset of the show that you're in Saskatchewan. Are you born and raised in the area?
I am. I was born in a very small town, raised on a farm 20 miles from the nearest town. I actually attended a country school where there was no town at all for the first 8 grades. So grade 8, I completed at the country school. And then I was bused in for high school at the town 20 miles away. My town is Rosetown. And this is where I live today. I went away for university, lived in the nearest city, which is Saskatoon, that had the university there. But I ended up coming back to raise my family in the town I loved, Rosetown.
And that in itself, I think, is a heartwarming story because I think, for the vast majority of people, a lot of kids today can't wait to get out of the town that they were raised in and go someplace else. and also to find people who are still living in the town that they were born and raised in. Is kind of rare, but it's heartwarming because you went away to college and you studied pharmacy, correct?
I did. And I practiced pharmacy for 40 years as a community pharmacist.
So I mean, probably absolutely everyone in town knew who you were.
Pretty much when my grandsons come to visit now too, and they say, Grandma, you know everyone. But yes, I worked in this town for much of my career as well. I came back and raised my family here. So you make connections that are lifelong. That's what's heartwarming about it. And that's what drew me to come back to my home community.
And I'm sure you knew so many of your patients by their first names, and when they came in to see you, it was more of a personal dialogue rather than just a pharmacist patient or customer relationship.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you not only know them as your patient or as coming into your pharmacy, but you know their families, you know their background, you know why they may be having a bad day that day because maybe they had just gone through a tragedy. You also can talk about their happy times, you know when it's time for them to celebrate. And so that was really special. It was really relationship building in so many ways and made for a very interesting practice.
Now, those of us that are down here in the lower states on the south side of that line between us, uh, we generally go to the large, nationwide pharmacies and all. Even though I have to say, in the town that I'm in, there is a chain of pharmacies, but there is a pharmacist that has been there for many years, and so we know her and we know her by name. But you identify yourself as a community pharmacist. Is there something that is different in community pharmacies as opposed to the Walgreens and the stores that we have here?
Well, what we call ourselves here, meaning community pharmacist, is that we work in the community. It could be a large chain like your Walgreens, or it could be the store that I had more independently owned. I was part of a group of owners and we had a banner, but I had a huge store. I had 18 staff.
Oh, wow.
And not all pharmacists. I mean, there was 4 of us pharmacists, but I had pharmacy assistants. I had a huge front store to run as well. But as opposed to other pharmacists who may work in hospital settings or in research or in manufacturing, that's what I mean by a community pharmacist. We work in the community.
Well, let's transition our conversation a little bit into what Debbie is doing today, because she is doing basically what I love to do. She's doing podcasting and all, but you have a focus, a definite focus on people in what you call the last chapter of life. And so what you have done is you have now gone forward to work with, I guess it's mostly women, although do you work also with some men on, how to deal with that, final chapter, or that, to put it in terms of football, the fourth quarter of the game, how to deal with some of the challenges that you had getting to that point and how to deal with it going forward.
Right. I do only interview women at this point. But what really propelled me to start this podcast, Stuart, was losing family members far too early. So my parents, I didn't get to see them grow old. They both passed away. My dad in his 50s, my mom in her 60s.
Oh,
And I
wow.
lost 2 sisters far too early as well. Um, my youngest sister, she was actually murdered when she was only 24 years old. And then
Oh,
I had a sister who struggled with multiple sclerosis. She was a year older than me, and she passed away when she was only 53 years old. So I always felt that when we get to actually just even exist when we get to live past a certain age. And I've randomly chosen that age as age 50. I say I interview women who are fearless, fabulous, and 50 plus, but that it really is a gift. So many people don't get that opportunity, don't get to unwrap that gift, so that it is something that we need to appreciate and embrace. And I think all of us really need to remind ourselves of that. And so I wanted to spread that message. And so I myself am moved by people's stories. So I really wanted it to be the stories of women who are doing just that, embracing their older years. And it's been very fulfilling and inspiring.
And the podcast is Older and Bolder, and that is also the website, which is scrolling. And please note, folks, olderandbolder.ca. It's not a .com. It's a CA for Canada and all. But I invite you to visit it, especially the ladies that are watching the show, because your interviews are mostly with women, and they are of various ages. You just most recently did an interview with I'll call her also a young lady that was, I think, 80 some years old, with Nancy Oliver McKenzie, I think is her name. I watched that interview. Just it's heartwarming to follow some of those episodes, because you learn from it. And you also learn that if you are in a position where you are living alone because of the loss of your relatives, that you have somebody out there that maybe has had it as you have, or maybe had it harder than you had. And so it makes it a little bit easier for you to accept it. So, some of your podcasts are audio and visual, and many of them are audio only. So it's great to folks to even listen to them while you're driving in the car, or you want to just sit back on the couch, put the headphones on, and listen to some of the stories, because they're very, very heartwarming. And Debbie, also let me say that I am so very, very sorry for the losses that you had to endure through your career, and the loss of your parents and your sisters, and that would probably knock some people down off the ladder pretty quickly and all. But you found a way to turn some of that heartache and all into something positive by starting your websites and interviewing some of these people. Did you always want to start a podcast, or was this something that just kind of, fell into place? Because you also lost your husband too.
I did lose my husband in 2022. How it came about, Stuart, was I loved listening to podcasts like that you do. I wanted to dabble into learning Spanish. I would listen to lots in my car, and in Saskatchewan we drive long distances. It's not densely populated, so I would be in my vehicle listening to podcasts lots of times. And so it kind of intrigued me. I always liked to write. During my pharmacy career, I was really involved at the national and the provincial level with my profession, and oftentimes had to speak to lay people or to other health professionals. And so I kind of thought it might be something I want to look into and see. I knew nothing about how to start a podcast or anything like that, but it intrigued me. So I did look into it. I found someone who was giving podcast workshops, and she agreed to work with me. And the rest is history. But I had started it before my husband passed away. In fact, before he ever became ill. And he was very supportive. I hadn't launched any episodes yet, but then after he became ill, it was put on the back burner. But once he passed away, it made me even more passionate that this was a message I wanted to spread. I needed to fill a void in my life as well to feel more purposeful and follow this passion. So I launched, he passed away in August of 2022, and I launched my first episode March of 2023.
And you haven't looked back.
I've enjoyed every step of the way, I guess. So yes.
It is. And, you know, for me, I never got into podcasting because I was looking, not, you know, that I was looking for any kind of notoriety for myself. It was just because I have always had that true desire to talk to people, not only to talk to them about their professions or their hobbies, but a little bit about their backstories, because everybody has those backstories, where they grew up, the hobbies that they do. I just recently had an episode with a gentleman who was in the Army and then also was a jailer for 28 years working with prisoners. But when he wasn't doing that, he went down to the local ice hockey rink and joined an ice hockey team. So you find about those and you say, wow, if people can do that, then I can do it. And I wanted to find out more about that. And I sense that you like to do that with the people that you're interviewing on your podcasts.
I do. I've always been one that am interested in other people and getting to know them, even if you're sitting on an airplane or you're waiting in line and it's nice to chit chat and pass the time, but get to know someone else and their stories. And of course, in my profession as a pharmacist, I would get to know their stories very well.
Right.
And people, you know, over a span of decades, you know, their stories, things that have happened to them, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all of that. So I have really enjoyed getting to know my guests, as you have mentioned too. It's very inspiring. It allows for growth for me and to think about different perspectives.
And you have said that it's kind of like reinventing yourself, because you've done something for so long that now you're going into an unknown. You did it the right way. You reached out to somebody that knew about podcasting and helped you learn a little bit more about it before you launched your show. I have Christine Dean, who is my producer and all. And the reason that I love her so much and have her producing this show is because I want to spend my time talking to you. I don't want to be sitting here pushing buttons and scrolling things across the screen like she will be doing again. I just want to talk with people and find out what they're doing. So you had this idea that you wanted to start talking to people, and your podcast is called Older and Bolder. Where was that an idea that you came up with?
Yeah, absolutely, I did. And because of my background, and kind of coincidentally, my producer and editor is named Christine as well, Christina, and she's invaluable to me. So she had a broadcasting background, and this is kind of her second career. She started a communications company, and she knows her stuff. And one of the things that I'm so grateful for her as well is she loved my idea right away. She's been so encouraging. She is my producer, my editor, my coach, my mentor, all of the above. And I can't say enough good things about her. She really does, has been in, you know, absolutely essential for me to be able to keep this podcast going and to start it initially as well.
And you said that some of your guests you have known through your career and all, but how do you seek out some of the guests that are on your shows?
Well, to start with, that's what I did. It was women who I felt were inspirational, and some of them didn't think they were themselves, but ones I knew or knew of through other people. And then as things continued, I mean, I found a few of them on other podcasts. Then I did join a network of that people that want to be on podcasts or that would be good guests are like that. And now I've done it long enough and that that people do reach out to me. So I get lots that go on my website, or people that contact me to say, I know someone who would be really great to be on your show. So it's all over the map now. But to start with, it was people I knew or knew of.
And that's exactly how I found you. There is a site where there are people that either have podcasts or would like to be a guest on a podcast, and they put themselves out there. It's almost like a dating service, if you will. And you know, I just perused through it and all, and I found that your backstory with your family and your career and all, and now you're doing podcasting, but you're focusing on women, as I think you said, who are fearless, fabulous, and over 50. And that was kind of the hook. And I said, you know, she's working with a specific area and all, and that's what I want to know a little bit more about. I mean, most women outlive their spouses because they have, gentlemen, we just generally pass away a little before our wives. And that puts a lot of women in that position of, oh my gosh, he's not here anymore. And what am I going to do? You lost your husband just 3 years ago and all.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but you lost him just after through COVID. So, you know, that was a period of time that was probably very, very stressful and all. And you find yourself saying, now what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And because you were in that position, that other people were also in that position, you said, I'm going to turn this around and make something positive come out of this negative that's hit me between the eyes.
Yeah, you're so right. Like, so often in a certain, once we get past a certain stage, and especially when we've had the loss of our spouse, we're becoming empty nesters. So my kids have long grown. We retired from our careers. It's like, who am I now? What is my identity? What gets me up in the morning? And so I did feel like there was a void that I really wanted to try something new. And I'm still figuring it out, but I am inspired every day by my guests. And there's so many women out there that are doing incredible things. They can be resilient, pursuing passion, finding a new purpose, making a huge difference for others. Those are a lot of the themes that my guests really portray when I talk to them, and have incredible backstories.
Do you find that when you invite your guests to come on, and many of them are in the same boat that you are, where they are grieving or so, and they're dealing with their latter years of their life, you know, do you find that it is very heartwarming and eye-opening for you as well as for them to discuss their you know, backgrounds and their challenges?
Well, they're certainly inspiring for me. There's some that have had horrendous losses with losing a child, in very tragic circumstances. There's others who have had a lot of adversities with health issues for themselves, or maybe been in accidents. I've interviewed a couple that in the blink of an eye became paraplegics and lived their lives in a wheelchair now, or, you know, and they're very inspiring for me. And I think we can make that connection. So most of them seem to be happy to share their stories, and the feedback from the audience is what really keeps me going as well. And so many of them have shared the feedback they've received after being on the show, and they are so heartwarmed and feel grateful for all that feedback, and realize that they are touching other people who are listening.
What was your decision to really focus on women, you know, 50 plus, which I applaud you for doing it, because very often we reach out and we decide we're going to do something and we just want to do, you know, bite off more than we could chew, or we go shoot for the moon. You focused on women that are pretty much in the same category that you are, and say, this is where I want to do it.
Yeah.
Was there a reason for staying that route to begin with?
There was, and really it was more that we as women really seem to be able to bare our souls. I think, and I'm not saying with all men, but it seems to me that so much of the time, men, when they converse with their buddies, it's sports, it's construction, it's things like that. And women, I think, find an easier time opening up to other women. Our friends are really, really important to us because we do put it all out there with them. And so I just thought I would feel more comfortable limiting it to women to start with, because I wasn't sure if I would be able to have those intimate conversations with men. And I wanted, but I might open it up to men now. I feel like I've had enough experience that I think I would feel better about it. But I really did it because I was nervous to start. I didn't know what the whole experience was going to end up being like for me.
Yeah.
And I just felt more of a comfort level with speaking to women, because that's what I've that's who I would open up to mostly in my own life.
Well, is it fair to say that, when a woman is in a position where she loses her husband, her significant other, who maybe has been more of the supporter and breadwinner in the family, all of a sudden she's like out there treading water in the sea, and she's, he used to take care of all of the bills. He used to do a lot of the shopping. He did this, he did that, and now he's not there. So it falls on me, and it's a little bit more of a challenge, where the guy says, if he loses his wife due to an illness or something, hey, I can get through this. I'm macho. I can deal with it, and it'll be tough, but I can handle it. So I don't want to say that women are not equal to the task, but sometimes they don't have all the tools in their belt that maybe a man did, and so they are saying, I may have a little bit of trouble doing this alone, so I need to talk to somebody. And so you've kind of opened up that door. You have become their support group.
Well, I think so. And I'm going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate, because I think part of it is that women sometimes aren't as scared to admit they can't do something and reach out to their friends. Correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that's what I've found, that sometimes we are a little more open because we don't have that macho image. We are used to asking for help for things, and to reach out and say, I'd really like to talk to you, or to say the areas where we're struggling in. And that kind of was my experience in my own life, and seeing how other women reach out for things. And so that was part of why I wanted to limit it to women to start with anyway, but that may change in the future.
And that's what I gathered by looking at some of your podcasts and listening to some of them, is kind of, this reinventing oneself and refocusing on, not only what do I do now, but I think I know what I have to do now, and how am I going to get there, and
Hmm.
and sharing that. And I'm sure that when your listeners follow that conversation with you and your guest, they're taking notes. They're saying to themselves, "That's a good idea. I can do that now." And that's the positive side of what we do as podcasters, is by sharing information with our guests. Sometimes we educate our followers to doing some of the same things that we're talking about.
Hmm. I totally agree with you. And so often someone can be motivated or inspired, and we have no idea. But then you come across somebody just out of the blue that have said, "Oh, I've listened to your podcast, and I felt motivated to do this because of this certain guest," or that kind of thing. And yeah, it's surprising but very heartwarming that is what's happening. And that was my hope, that it could reach even one person out there to think differently, that there's lots to live for. There's lots to look forward to, and we're living longer, and this could be the best time of our lives.
And and very often it is because someone is grieving for one reason or another. Uh, you don't have a degree in psychology and all, but when you're interacting with people, how do you feel that this enhances your ability to bring people to a better place with themselves?
Oh, that's a very good question, Stuart. I haven't really thought of it, but I think anytime that someone feels that they're in a safe space to open up really is beneficial. And I know that's how I feel. So I've heard feedback from my guests that they were nervous to start with, especially ones that had really tragic stories to share. Um, I'm thinking a lot of ones who have lost a child,
Hmm.
and they've been
Yeah.
very, very tragic. In fact, one of my guests, she lost her son, his wife, and their three young children all in one accident all at one
Oh my
time.
goodness.
And I reached out to her to see if she would be interested, and she thought about it and she agreed to it. And she was worried about what it was going to do. She did an amazing job of talking about her grandkids who were age 2, 4, and 6. And but she said she felt safe once she started talking. And so I think that's it, just to have a safe place to talk about it with people.
Well, and also, kudos to you because you have been a part of your community for so many years and you're a recognizable figure. So when you started doing this show, people could say, well, I don't know if I can talk to somebody about, but they knew you and they trusted you. And for this young lady who had suffered so much, she could have gone the other route. She could have locked herself in the house and just gone into a deep state of depression over all of the loss that she had just endured. And by you reaching out and saying, let's talk about it, and for her to put her trust in you and to talk about it, she's probably a better person for it also.
Well, and she's done a lot of work for herself. She's really done amazing things, and in our community there is a wonderful, wonderful monument in our community that's a splash park for kids. That's a one of a kind. It's the best splash park I've ever seen. A wonderful tribute for the family that was lost, which is her son and his family. And so she's done the work, and I was just very privileged to be able to showcase her story to inspire others, because she has done amazing, and I don't think any of us could even wildly imagine what it must feel like for her.
And again, we have been scrolling the website, olderandbolder.ca. I encourage people that are watching and listening to the show to visit it. Listen to some of the podcasts, whether when you're driving or when you're just sitting at home, and listen to a few. Or if you know somebody, a family member or a neighbor or a relative or something that has been going through some of these types of things that could use a little bit of this encouragement that Debbie shares with her guests, then tune in and follow some of the shows. Uh, do you think that this has been a really good step for Debbie McCulloch to take from going from pharmacy and all to now doing podcasting and all? You said it was a leap of faith, and you were going down a rabbit hole you weren't sure you could contend with. Do you feel it's a good fit?
I'm really grateful that I did try it out. It was a big step out of my comfort zone, but it's been really fulfilling for me. It's been confidence raising, and especially all the connections I've made with these women. So
Mhm.
I have been, yeah, I think it was, I'm really glad that I was able to do it and it fell into place. And I plan on continuing continuing it. I do take the summer off, July and August. I don't record during those times. I usually do repeat episodes just because I like to spend time with my grandchildren and go to the lake and with family and those kinds of things. And it has been really a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. And I love the flexibility of it. I love how I can meet people from around the world. I have many American guests on my show as well, and Canadian, and it is listened to in many parts of the world. So, yeah, and I get to meet people like you too, Stuart, through the magic of the internet. So it has been surprisingly a very growing experience. It has exceeded any of my expectations.
And from one podcaster to another, I mean, we feel the same way. Not only do we feel good about the interviews that we're doing with our guests and all, but we feel like we're doing something positive for the viewing world out there too. Because if they connect with us, I find that once somebody watches one or two of your podcasts, they have a tendency, whether it's when you go live or when you record it, they can go back at their leisure and sit and listen to it, and it's a comfort. It is a comfort. And I'm sure that to a lot of the people that follow you on a regular basis, it's a comfort. People have been reaching out to me for years and saying that show was great, and some of my shows are very upbeat, comical, and we have a great time. Others could get pretty serious and pretty edgy, and I get positive comments from both, and that makes me feel good. But it makes me feel good for the sake of my guests and for the sake of my followers, more so than just saying, oh, maybe I'll win an award for this. That's not what it's all about.
Exactly.
That's the volunteer part of what I'm doing that makes me feel so good, is I honestly get more out of it than what I put into it.
And I feel exactly the same way. And again, like the guests, some of them have shown resilience, or getting over tragedies and turning them into something positive. But a lot of them have just found new purpose, followed a passion, are doing incredible things. And a lot of the conversations we share laughs. There's been shared tears. There's been shared surprising moments. It's really all over the map, and that really lights up my world as well.
On the website, folks, with most, there is a contact button there. So if you want to go in and click on the contact button and reach out to Debbie and say, I have a question, or you may want to reach out and say, I have a story to tell, and I maybe you would like to consider me as a guest on your show. Feel free to do so. Debbie is open to your suggestions and what you might like to interact with her. And you can do it just by going to the website. So the future, you want to keep on doing the podcast, and maybe you'll start to include a few men with some of their stories. Because
that's a possibility.
You'll feel better about it. Have you ever had any husband-wife guests yet on your show?
I have not. I have only had women so far, but that could be a possibility as well. Yeah, no, I do plan on continuing my podcast. And one thing I want to start working on that I've just put out there is I'd like to write a companion book talking about older and bolder with the themes, but also incorporating stories from my podcast guests.
Excellent.
To exemplify some of the messages that have really come out loud and clear during this time that I've been doing my podcast. So I hope it comes to fruition. I've just started it. I've just started working on that, but I really hope to do that. So there is, because I think there's a book out there that I've really got so much good information and stories now that have really resonated with me. And I think in a book form, they would resonate with other people as well.
So in other words, your book is not closed yet. This last chapter is still a work in progress.
Yeah, it is. So I hope that just comes to it. But I think there is a book in there, and I'm just starting to get it organized. It's a concept of an idea right now that's
Right.
barely been started, but
Hey, the podcast was a concept at one time too, and now that's a reality. So nothing is impossible.
mhm.
Well, Debbie McCulloch, thank you very, very much for taking the time to be a guest on the show and to talk with me about your life and your experiences and your podcast. Every week, I end my show with Oscar Wilde: "Be yourself because everyone else is already taken." And so it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Thank you very, very much.
Well, it's been my extreme pleasure to be on your show, Stuart. Thank you so much. And congratulations on your 520th episode. That's very impressive. So
10
thank you
years. Wow. Well, that'll do it for another episode, a big anniversary episode of Someone You Should Know. Go out, make it a great day. I hope you'll join us again next time. Again, thank you very, very much to Debbie McCulloch. Thank you, and all the best to you, Deb.
Thank
Someone you should know.